The night split open with a sound that did not belong to it, a sound like a man's soul tearing itself free, as a young figure collapsed at the edge of a deserted highway under a flickering streetlight, hands shaking, eyes swollen with terror, whispering a broken prayer into the darkness while engines rumbled closer, because at midnight fear does not knock, it crashes, and when the Hell's Angels bikes slowed and circled, what they saw was not an enemy or a threat but a boy kneeling on cold asphalt, soaked by mist, pointing toward the trees and begging for protection with everything he had left inside him. And before this story goes any further, if you believe that kindness still matters in a world that often feels cruel, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us what humanity looks like, and comment below to tell us where you are watching from because your voice matters here. And as the engines went quiet and the night held its breath, the boy named Ethan Carter struggled to stand, his thin jacket torn at the sleeve, his face marked by the kind of exhaustion that comes from running not for miles but for someone else's life, and though no words were spoken aloud, the message in his eyes was clear as the moon above. There was someone hidden beyond the tree line who could not survive the night without help, and the bikers, men with scars earned over decades and reputations built on fear, felt something shift inside them as they followed the trembling direction of his hand, pushing through wet grass and thorny brush until the smell of rust and damp wood crept into the air and they found an old storage shed half sunken into the ground, its door barely hanging on its hinge, and inside, lit by a single dying lantern, lay a young woman named Lily Carter, Ethan's older sister, bound by rope, her breathing shallow, her skin pale, evidence of violence etched into the scene in ways that needed no explanation, because sometimes the truth announces itself without sound. And as the bikers took in the details, the bruises, the blood, the way Lily's fingers twitched as if clinging to life by memory alone, they realized something shocking and undeniable. This was not a random crime or a reckless night gone wrong. This was a planned act meant to silence someone who had tried to protect others, because Lily had been documenting illegal dumping by a local crew tied to powerful people. And when she refused to stop, the threat had turned into an ambush, and Ethan, who had watched from hiding as his sister was dragged away hours earlier, had run until his lungs burned, chasing the only lights he believed might not turn him away, and the Hell's Angels, long painted by headlines as villains, moved with a precision born of loyalty and an unspoken code, cutting ropes, stabilizing Lily, shielding her from the cold with leather jackets that smelled of oil and road dust, while one rider called for emergency help from a burner phone, knowing full well that doing the right thing sometimes meant standing under a spotlight they had avoided for years. And as sirens wailed in the distance, Ethan finally collapsed into the grass, tears soaking the earth as relief hit him like a wave, because the hardest part of courage is not the running or the begging, it is believing someone will listen. And over the next hours the truth continued to unfold. Police reports confirmed Lily's files, hidden on a flash drive taped inside a fence post, detailed crimes that would shake the county. And as Lily was rushed into surgery and Ethan sat wrapped in a blanket, the bikers stood guard, not for praise but because once you decide to protect someone, you do not abandon that choice when the night ends. And in the days that followed, as Lily fought her way back from the edge, news spread quietly that a group of bikers had intervened. But what shocked everyone most was not the rescue itself. It was what they discovered afterward, the depth of the network Lily had exposed, the number of people who had been hurt, and the fact that a frightened boy's midnight plea had cracked open a truth powerful people wanted buried. And as court dates arrived and arrests followed, the Hell's Angels ensured Ethan and Lily were never alone, arranging safe housing, legal support, and a watchful presence that turned fear into something steadier, something like hope. And Lily, still healing, found strength in knowing her work had not been in vain, while Ethan, once silent and small, began to lift his head again, understanding that bravery does not always roar, sometimes it whispers at midnight and waits for the right ears to hear it. And the community, forced to confront its assumptions, started to see the riders differently, not as symbols but as men who chose action when it mattered. And as months passed and the scars faded into reminders rather than wounds, the story settled into something larger than any headline, a reminder that protection can come from unexpected places, that the line between darkness and light is thinner than we think, and that one act of faith can set many others in motion. And if this story has reached something tender inside you, if it reminded you that compassion can arrive on loud engines or quiet footsteps, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances, and stay connected to the channel because stories like this deserve to travel far, and before the ending, we ask you to leave a comment below telling us one word that describes how this story made you feel, because those words help keep these stories alive. And as the final image lingers of Ethan standing beside his sister at sunrise, watching the road where help finally came, the message remains clear and unshakable. Protection is not about who you are supposed to fear or trust, it is about who shows up when a life hangs in the balance, and sometimes the most shocking discoveries are not found in the dark, but in the light that follows when someone chooses to answer a cry for help.